Welcome to another edition of Understanding the Law. Today is Thursday, March 13th, and we're very happy to have with us a special guest, Bryan Glynn. Bryan is a professional photographer, and he is the owner/editor of cigarobsession.com. We're going to talk to Bryan about a variety of topics today. His business is based out of Florida, but through social media, his reach has extended, well beyond the United States. He's got a massive amount of followers on both his professional photography site and the Cigar Obsession site. So we're going to get into a little bit with Bryan about his background, how he developed, how he's using social media, and how it can be applied really to any business model. So, Bryan, thank you for being on the show today.
Hi, Peter. Thank you very much for having me.
So I want to talk a little bit, Bryan, about your background. How you started. Obviously, you're a professional photographer, but where did this all come from? How, what's your training and your business background? How did you get into the field of photography?
Yeah. Well, I got into the field, I wouldn't say by choice. I was laid off from an IT job, and I decided to, instead of go back into the field, which I was really burned out from. I had been doing IT for over 15 years. And that industry was just on such a decline. This was the late 2000s. So I decided to take a chance. I cashed in one of my 401ks and started the business. I'd always been interested in photography. I have no formal training. And I'll tell you, if you're an aspiring photographer out there, the number one piece of advice I can give you, this is what I tell everybody that says, what should I do in school to be a photographer? You get a general business degree, because there are so many things that I did not know, and I've learned through the School of Hard Knocks over the past 7 years. It is 95% straight business, 5% photography. So I started out by just shooting anything and everything, because I didn't know what I was really good at, what I really loved. And over the years, I've cut out certain things, and now I'm strictly a wedding and commercial photographer, the two things I have a passion for and do extremely well. And I've been doing just those two for the past couple of years. So it's been a slow progression. I didn't have a master plan, and yes, I did waste tens of thousands of dollars figuring things out along the way. And it's just been a ride since then.
Well, it's ties into something we talked about 2 weeks ago. We had a guest on the show who had written a book for the Shark Tank show, and he had talked about this idea of, if you have a passion for something, or you are looking to start your own business, it all starts with a leap of faith. And that seems like what you're saying. You cashed in your 401k and you took a chance. And obviously, everyone knows that most new businesses fail within the first 1 to 2 years. Yours has not. How do you think that you've managed to build your business? Because every time I look at you on your online presence, you seem to get stronger and stronger. So what do you attribute to that?
The number one thing I can say for that is find your niche. Find something that you're very unique about and a way to stand out from the crowd. Back when I started, it wasn't nearly as bad as it is right now. It seems like everybody, their mother and sister, is a photographer these days, because it's so easy to pick up a $500 camera package from Best Buy and snap some photos and, fly under the radar, under the table, no taxes, and shoot a wedding for $400 and call yourself a photographer. And believe me, there are hundreds in the Tampa area and probably every other large city that do that. But you have to find a way to have a specific style, but most importantly, network. It's all about who you know as far as getting in with wedding planners and venues and other top quality vendors in your area. It's just being unique, and being unique is something that I really tie over into everything I do, especially Cigar Obsession, that we can talk about later. But that's really it. You don't want to be just a follower. You don't want to be another Me Too. You're not going to make it. So what I did was figure out exactly what kind of look I was going for with my photography. I offer services that, frankly, nobody else in the area was doing, and very few do today. For example, I produced a very, very streamlined workflow. Typically, For example, when you shoot a wedding, the average turnaround time is 6 to 9 months to get your photos back.
Right.
I do it in 1 to 2 weeks, which is absolutely unheard of. And I can do that because of the very specific workflow that I do. And I have since offered that as a course to other photographers in the area. So I've trained some on how to do it, and I've slowly been changing the industry around here as far as that goes. So it's all about finding those things that set yourself apart.
And, the other interesting thing to touch on is the fact that, you, as you know from an IT background, technology has changed the way that we do business, even in the professional services industries. People like yourself and myself, doctors, lawyers, accountants, photographers, it's really a professional services business. And what you're giving to people, obviously in your case, you're giving them a tangible product, but you're also giving them ideas and experience and a vision. I would imagine that a lot of people come to you and they don't say, I want you to pose me like this, or I want you to do this. I mean, this all comes from your own creative mind. And, the use of technology and embracing technology, I think, can allow people in the professional services industry to be different, and I honestly think it's necessary in this day and age to be technically proficient to an extent. Do you agree?
I certainly agree with that. The only thing I would add is in the last, I would say, 9 months, the bane of photographers' existence has been Pinterest, because it's been the exact opposite of that. The latest trend is all these new brides are starting their pin boards with all these photos that they want to recreate, and that is just like murder to a photographer, because when we get hired, it's for our individuality. And now we get brides that say, I want to make this photo and this photo and this photo and this photo. And you're like, I'm not a cookie cutter. I'm not going to just copy other people's work. So in that regard, technology is kind of working against it. Right.
Well, let's get into a little bit of the technology discussion. I want to talk later on about the logistics of your business and getting paid as a professional service provider and that sort of thing. But before we get into that, let's start with your use of social media. So I assume that you had some knowledge, being that you were in the IT field, that maybe the average person wouldn't have. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, that's certainly fair.
So how did you learn about social media and how to make it work for you? And I say that because a lot of the questions that we received this week from our viewers and subscribers, people on our website, they all seem to focus around the use of social media, the effective use of it. Most of the people that wrote in were either small to mid-sized businesses or sole proprietors, and their questions focused around the fact that, they have a Facebook page, they want to have a YouTube channel, they don't have it yet, they're using Twitter, and they're posting stories, and they're posting coupons, and they're doing things, but they're not getting that feedback or following. And, they seem to understand that social media is interaction. It's not just a billboard.